Hello and welcome to the Reimagining Motion Sessions by AVL. Today we'll be talking about a hot and contentious topic that has been buzzing through the industry for the past decades. And that is what we can expect from the future of autonomous driving. Today we have the privilege of welcoming experts from AVL to share their insights and expertise while we delve into the exciting developments and advancements happening at the company as they pave their way towards a new era of automated and connected mobility. So I'm really glad to have you experts here today because this is such an exciting topic, but also a very complex topic. So I'm glad to have you all here. Let me introduce you. Andrea Leitner, you are Head of Development for Driving Assistant Systems. Is this correct? Help me out here. And that's essentially testing solutions, as I've understood. And Andrea Conti, you are the President of Business Development in the area of engineering. And Harald over here is our cybersecurity expert, all in charge of cybersecurity solutions here at AVL. So I'm glad I have the three of you here because one of my first questions here is just a little bit of where do we stand nowadays with autonomous driving? In my head, of course, we're all already just sitting back and kicking up our feet and letting the car drive for us. But that's not where we stand. Maybe, Andrea, you want to start us out? Where do we stand today?
Yes, that's a good point. First of all, also welcome from my side. From that perspective, I think that it's important to say that modern vehicles today, they are having already driver assistance systems installed as a serial production line. This means they are having already the possibility to save lives and also make the driving on public roads more safer than it was before. So there are, of course, developments and also regulation that are tying and paving this way ahead for the vehicles to come. And this is where, of course, AVL is playing a major role.
These are things like the braking systems on the,
for instance,
on the highway.
Adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, all those kind of features that are currently in the modern vehicles.
And so we actually already know this a little bit from the cars we have.
Yes. You can say like this. There are, of course, differentiations in terms of how the behavior of the vehicle is going to be perceived from the people inside the vehicles, but basically those are already the first steps towards a more safe journey for the future.
Absolutely. And Andrea, when we think about the trust that we have in these systems, of course, if I think about it, driving assistant and things that help you not have a crash, for instance, on the highway. These are all things that, of course, I want in my car and make me trust my car more. Of course, if we look at the media, the concerns for autonomous driving have a lot to do with trust in the general population. How does AVL kind of deal with that? First of all, talking to manufacturers, but also in the way it tests.
Well, that's a good topic. I mean, trust it's a really important point. And I think we're trying to support our customers in building up this trust by providing them tools to validate really if the function is working in all the different environments or all the situations that might occur. Because there is a lot happening outside. And the main thing is the function or the car needs to interact with its environment. So it needs to understand what's happening around it and it needs to react on it. And so we are providing tools and also engineering services where we support the customers in really collecting data, understanding the data, and using it for testing. And doing this in different environments so that they can do a lot of testing. Because if you just drive around on the road, not so much interesting is happening most of the time. And the really interesting stuff is maybe also very dangerous. So you don't want to test if the car is really detecting a cyclist or pedestrian on the real road. So you want to do this beforehand. And that's where we are supporting also with virtual test environments, where you do it in a safe environment. And really can build up this trust also from the company, so from the OEM, for example, that they can be really sure that they have tested sufficiently and then that they can also give this trust to their customers.
I think it's just such an interesting dilemma because you want to offer, of course, all the safety features you can possibly offer. However, the more safe a car is, the more automated it is, in essence, correct?
Might be,
depending on the way.
We hope that this is the case. But what you need to be aware of is that some interactions of humans are very difficult to replicate by a car. So there will be different errors. We hope that there will be less errors, of course, and that the impacts will not be that severe. So that's what the function also made for. But yeah, there will still be problems, and that's also a point for trust, I guess, to really teach people what the systems are capable of doing, what they are not, how they need to interact with this kind of systems. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think one of the wisest things my father ever said to me was when I got my driver's license, and he said, I'm sure you're going to be a good driver, but it's not you I'm worried about, it's all the other people. Exactly. So I think this part of the trust is also the car is protecting me from all these other people in a way. When we talk about trust, it's not just on the physical level, I'm safe in this car, but it's also, of course, on the digital level with the software. Every car, we've heard in a bunch of the other sessions, how much software and how complex this software has to be and how many touch points it has to the outside world. So Harald, my question to you is how safe can we really say these kind of autonomous vehicles, how safe can they even be? Or what are the concerns really there for cybersecurity?
I mean, security is really an important topic for trust, right? So if you trust the car, that there is no unauthorized access from the outside into the car that could, of course, deal with functionality, which is inside the car, driving you around. This is, of course, a big topic. And the cars, especially autonomous cars, they're getting more and more compute on wheels, right? It's a more compute system in the car, so more software in the car. And also those systems need to be connected to the outside because there's a permanent exchange of data. So cybersecurity is really evident to those concepts and also cars. We need to make sure that we have only authorized access from the outside to the inside of the car. And this, of course, then builds up this trust a driver must have to really enjoy the driving experience in such vehicles.
So this is like the third level of trust. We have the trust with the end user, the trust with the clients that AVL works with, and the trust then on that level of
it's a multi-level concept, right? Yes.
I think it's a really important aspect of it. And when we think about autonomous driving and connectivity, because we're talking about this kind of way in which the outside world is interacting with the car, communicating with the car, etc. When it comes to trust here, where does it differentiate now if we're talking about autonomous driving and the trust issues that are in the general public or in with your customers and connectivity? Are there separate concerns when it comes to the trust or to cybersecurity? Because I think, as you said before, these are lots and lots of connections to the outside world. Every time data is transferred, there's a potential weak point, correct? Maybe you can elaborate on what the concerns are.
I mean, there are a lot of digital threats, of course, because we're interacting now with a compute system, and we need to identify those threats. And also then define the right shields in the car protecting against those threats. So I always call them a little bit shields, right? So, and these shields, of course, need to be created at OEM's level, but also on the supplier level, have to be integrated, have to be tested as well, that they're working efficiently and probably. And also we have to maintain this shield across the complete life cycle of the car. So if, for example, a vulnerability pop up, which was unknown and is now getting known and transparent, we have to see which vehicles have this vulnerability implemented and have to provide fast and precise software over-the-air updates to fix the vulnerability.
I mean, the benefits are kind of obviously clear for the end user, but even for the manufacturer, it's lovely to know that you can upgrade a car without having to say, we made a mistake, we have to retract all the thousands of vehicles that we've already sold. It's definite time save and cost save. So when it comes to guaranteeing safety and reliability for these systems, it's also important to keep up with the pace of development. So we're talking, cybersecurity being super important to keep everything under control, but you also have to, keep delivering and keep helping OEMs produce. How can you really keep up with that kind of pace? And also what considerations do you have to make when maybe looking at different regions and what the differences are, not only in infrastructure, but also in lawmaking, maybe legislation?
Absolutely. There are some boundaries that the OEMs need to take care of. From the legal perspective, in Europe, we are quite settled. There is the GSR Release 2, which has been taking to place, a general safety regulation, which took place since July the 6th, 2022, which is somehow bringing some additional features into vehicles. So from the legal perspective, I think we are on a good path in Europe. In Asia and in America, there are those not that strong boundaries. So they are still keeping going with the releasing the law and the let me say the fast lane for those features. And we in AVL, of course, we have to cope with all those scenarios. We have to cope with the way how we are interacting with our clients, and we have to cope with the way how to consult and help them to understand the requirements that are going to be necessary to bring their products on the market. And this is very, very important that we are having these capabilities. AVL is having also a department who is taking particular care about taking the overview of the legal boundaries worldwide, and also help the internal technical department on how to bring the requirements in shape. And this kind of knowledge is extremely important, extremely valuable for our clients, because in case they have to bring a product and they don't know exactly what to bring, in which shape, in which quality, so AVL is of course a partner we take and rely on in this particular case.
I think it's a really important aspect, but also when it comes to testing, of course, you're looking at completely different systems, not only governmental systems, legislative systems, but different infrastructure systems, different traffic systems. How does testing deal with that? How do you simulate these completely different infrastructures?
I mean, when it comes to testing, I guess we are back to data. And when we want to speed up things, we need to collect data previously to just have things available from different countries, from different situations.
Is that data always readily available, or do you need to collect it yourself?
No, that's a big topic.
Okay.
That's currently a big topic that everyone is trying to collect the data that they need. Because it also depends on the setup. You have different sensors in your cars. You need to have specific data for your setup to really be able to use it later on for testing purposes. So this is a really big topic for us as well. Because it's a huge amount of data. You need to deal with the data, you need to make sense of the data, structure it, make sure that you know exactly what you can use for which purpose. So yeah, I think these are some of the main challenges for customers. And then also how to speed up the testing process. So having different test environments where you can early enough test as much as possible, go to the next test environment where you maybe already have more hardware, even a complete car maybe, and do this in very short cycles to be really fast, to deliver new functions, provide updates to functions, and still make sure that they are working properly.
Well, the big change here I'm hearing is the more feedback loops, quicker feedback loops with the data gathering, but also then being able to iterate and iterate and iterate until you get there faster. When it comes to these kind of regional differences and differences in infrastructure and legislation, what kind of methods and tools does AVL use to help manufacturers?
So we have the strong position on the market that we are having well established, and also own methods and tools in order to help our clients to exactly master these kind of challenges. Talking about the legislation boundaries that we are facing ahead of us, we have a tool in AVL who is collecting the requirements out of it, having those, establishing these tools, and when the client is developing his product using these tools, he is getting a very clear overview about the legal boundaries that he needs to have in order to bring those features, those ADAS, and especially also the AD features into their vehicles. And of course, AVL is also keeping going in the development processes according to the quality standards of the automotive fields, because the quality is playing a major role when it goes into the trust of the system, when it goes into how many iteration loop do I need to do in order to correct bugs that can be found in the software. And there are also some approaches that we are having in AVL in order to identify corner cases, so the cases that are really particularly dangerous for a specific situation, in which we can also help to stream down a bit the quantity of corner cases to the very most important one, and therefore reduce the time to market from that perspective.
I think this is also a really important topic, just generally these regional differences. It's a super important topic when it comes to the trust question and perception in general in the public. The perception of autonomous driving is this ghost is driving a car. Perhaps I'm just simplifying up here, obviously. Car is driverless. I'm sitting here completely helpless, so to say. But when it comes to trusting things? Are there great regional differences and great cultural differences as to, oh yeah, trucks, of course, no problem. Private vehicles, no, definitely not. Or something like this. Have there been any experiences that you've had in that way, that that people are fine with one thing but not fine with something else?
Well, I think there are different aspects on this. One thing is that also the automated vehicle needs to interact with the traffic in a natural way. So as you would expect it, and this can be different in different countries. So in India it would be different maybe than in Europe. So there it's okay to be much closer to other cars. They would expect that, and even the car wouldn't be able to drive if it's too reacting too sensitive on this kind of things.
Right.
So in Europe, you're used to having more distance between cars. So these are things that you need to consider, of course, if you provide your function, also if you test your function. And then, of course, there are other differences between countries. If you have the example of India, again, there are cows on the road. That's quite natural. That's nothing that you have in Europe. Or usually don't have cows. So it's also things that the car needs to deal with, and other things that you need to test.
So this is just a really almost on the level of personalization of the software defined vehicle for the user. We have this kind of personalization also for the regional solutions. You have to have it, right? Okay, I'd love to talk about this forever because I love this subject. But I have a question for the three of you. Looking forward into the future, if we're envisioning a future with the dream version of automated driving and connected mobility, what can we expect? What would be your vision or your wish for the automated connected driving of the future? Whoever wants to go first, feel free. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I have been asked these questions already once in an article a couple of months ago. I think that for me it would be a quite of a nice wish to be able, when I'm going to be perhaps 80 or 85 and I'm not going to have any possibility to drive my car on my own, that I can still call for an autonomous vehicle in front of my door and then bring myself to the grandchildren, wherever they are, and then come back safe home without any limitation in the mobility. This is a bit what I think it would be great if we could achieve as a society, as an automotive field, this kind of goal before I'm going to pass away.
Yeah, and the independence it gives people as well, absolutely.
So basically I share this vision. I mean, it's a safe mobility for everyone, everywhere, anywhere in the world, basically, because especially in regions where you don't have much public transportation, I think this is an important mobility concept as well. And especially for those who cannot drive anymore, or children, or whoever is for whatever reason not able to drive, it's really important to have this concept.
Absolutely. And Harald, last but not least, your vision.
Also fascinating about autonomous vehicle. I think technology itself will solve a lot of problems as well, right? And will enable new possibilities. For autonomous driving is for me to get really also time back while I was driving the car. Now I got driven, right? So I have me time for me. And this I will really enjoy, with also the background thinking that I have good concepts implemented to prepare this technology for the good and also save it from the downside.
I think that's such an important part. I mean, ethics are always in there with us, right? In this development. Thank you guys so much for joining us today to talk about this very exciting topic. There's so much more that's going to be happening in this area. So everybody, stay tuned, and AVL will be at the forefront as always. So thank you guys for joining. It's been a great conversation about how automated driving and connected mobility is going to change our future of transportation, and also how AVL is connecting with each of the manufacturers who's trying to bring this in to their new infrastructure in whatever region they're in. So thanks again for joining. Join us again soon in the next Reimagining Motion session.